May 5, 2007. The Kenya Airways Boeing 737-8AL operated a regular international flight KQ507 on the route Abidjan-Douala Nairobi. On board the aircraft were 114 people, 108 passengers, and 6 crew members. The aircraft was flown by an experienced crew. Its composition was as follows. Captain, 52-year-old Francis Mbesho Wamia. Co-pilot, 23-year-old Andrew Wanyok Kioru. Also on board were flight engineer William Moyakisilu, who was flying as a passenger, and 6 flight attendants. On May 4, 2007, at 18:30 the liner left the platform and at 18:45 flew from Abidjan to Douala. The flight went off without a hitch and at 22:01, Flight 507 landed at Douala Airport. The liner stopped at parking lot C7 and stopped the engines, and after a while the maintenance personnel arrived at the liner. At the same time, the crew did not have any comments on the aircraft. Also, 38 passengers disembarked in Douala. After 20 minutes from the moment the engine stopped, the boarding of passengers began. According to the plan, the flight to Nairobi was to be completed at 2300 hours. Also in Douala, another 91 passengers got into the cabin to the already existing 17 passengers from Abidjan. In total, there were 114 people on board the ship, 108 passengers and 6 crew members. At 22:47 hours, the crew received weather information from the controller.
Air temperature 27, dew point 25, QNH 1010, calm, takeoff from runway 12.
At 23:20 hours, the crew of the Kenyan liner made a request to start the engines, for which the dispatcher gave permission. However, after 17 minutes, the crew of Flight 507 reported that they were aborting the launch for the time being and would wait for the downpour to stop. At 23:54 hours, a new request was made from KQA 507, for which they received relaunch permission. At 23:58 hours, the captain reported that all systems were operating normally. After that, the co-pilot read the control card before taxiing, after which at 23:59 the captain asked the controller for permission to taxi, for which the controller asked to wait for a while. In the process of waiting, the crew of Flight Ram 287, who was also waiting for departure, contacted the controller and, having a dialogue in French, requested updated weather, to which the controller transmitted.
Visibility 2,624 feet, no wind, moderate thunderstorm, clouds scattered at 328 feet, variable at 984 feet and cumulonimbus at 1,640 feet in all sectors.
When asked by the Moroccan crew how long the thunderstorm would last, the controller replied that it might be until morning. Further, already in English, the dispatcher gave permission for Kenyan Flight 507 to proceed to runway number 12. The co-pilot, in turn, reported that there were 108 passengers and 6 crew members on board, and the estimated flight duration was 5 hours 45 minutes, after which at midnight the liner began to move. The co-pilot turned on his weather radar and began to read the control card before takeoff, and also requested permission from the controller to take off from runway number 12 and proceed to Nairobi at FL 370, 37,073 feet, using the call signs Kenya 507, to which the controller instructed to contact him before takeoff. Then at 0:04 hours the captain contacted the control tower.
Tower, this is Kenya 507. After takeoff, we would like to change course to the left of the route to avoid the storm.
The co-pilot corrected him that he should follow more to the right, so the captain clarified the request.
Sorry, a little to the right.
The controller has authorized this course change. The pilots discussed the details among themselves and determined the takeoff heading to be 118 degrees, the climb rate to be 149 knots, the toga mode should be on, and the N1 engine mode was determined to be 99%. After 0:05 hours, the Boeing began its takeoff run along the runway. The aircraft was flown by the captain. At 0:05 hours, the V1 speed alarm sounded, decision speed, which was confirmed by the co-pilot, and after 3 seconds the co-pilot said,
"Climb."
The captain pulled the steering wheel towards himself, thereby raising the nose strut, and at exactly 0:06 hours the liner broke away from runway number 12. At the 9th second from the moment of takeoff, the landing gear was removed. Also, the plane began to turn to the right, but the captain parried this by deflecting the steering wheel to the left, after which he returned the steering wheel to the neutral position, although a barely noticeable right roll of 1 degree was still preserved. At 0:06 hours, an altitude of 984 feet was passed, while no deviations in control were observed. At the 26th second of flight, according to the flight recorder, altitude was 1,139 feet, heading 118 degrees, pitch plus 15 degrees, speed 163 knots. The captain said that he had taken a new course, which the co-pilot confirmed, after which a turn to the right was made from heading 118 degrees to 132 degrees, and then the captain said that he would keep this direction. After that, by turning the rudder, a turn was made to a course of 139 degrees. At 40 seconds after takeoff at an altitude of 1,597 feet and at a speed of 181 knots, the crew began to increase the engine power, as well as reduce the right bank. The autopilot did not turn on. After 5 seconds, the co-pilot asked if they were still banked, to which the answer was yes, after which at 48 seconds, bank was 15 degrees to the right, the rudder was deflected to the left. Then the autopilot heading setter was set to 120 degrees, while the right bank increased to 20 degrees. Then, at 65 seconds into the flight at 0:07, the captain said,
"We got on course,"
which the co-pilot confirmed, and after another 4 seconds, the co-pilot asked if they had gone off course, after which the course was changed on autopilot from 120 degrees 165 degrees. At the 72nd second of the flight, the captain asked if the settings were correct, to which the co-pilot answered in the affirmative. Then the liner at a speed of 199 knots rose to a height of 2,696 feet, when the starboard bank had already reached 34 degrees, and a second later the alarm was activated about the maximum allowable roll. In an attempt to correct the roll, the rudder was first deflected 22 degrees to the right, then 20 degrees to the left, then 45 degrees to the right again, and then 11 degrees to the left, but because of these actions, the right bank only increased even more. Then, at an altitude of 2,769 feet and 83 seconds into the flight without any command, the autopilot was activated. The right roll at this moment already reached 50 degrees. After 5 seconds, the rudder again vigorously began to deviate first to the right, then to the left, and then again to the right, while the captain exclaimed,
"We will crash."
Following, the co-pilot said,
Right. We fall to the right.
The right roll at the 89th second of the flight had already reached 70 degrees. The pilots began to deflect the steering wheel to the left, but at the same time the right rudder pedal continued to be depressed. At the 91st second of flight at a speed of 219 knots, the liner rose to a height of 2,896 feet, but the right bank had already exceeded 80 degrees, and after 2 seconds it reached a right angle, 90 degrees, due to which the lift quickly dropped and the liner began to lose altitude. The co-pilot shouted,
Right, Captain. Left, 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 correct to the left.
But flight KQ-507 had already entered a tailspin with a rapid loss of altitude, and just a few seconds later at 0:07 hours at a speed of 286 knots crashed into a swamp. After the disappearance of flight KQ-507, a search for it was launched from the radar. Initially, the Cameroonian media reported that the disaster occurred in the south of the country near the border with Equatorial Guinea, south of Kribi. All 114 people on board the ship were killed. As of 2020, this is the largest air disaster in Cameroon and the second worst disaster in the history of Kenya Airways. An investigation into the causes of the crash of flight KQ-507 was conducted by a commission from the Civil Aviation Authority of Cameroon. The final report of the investigation was published on April 28, 2010. According to the report, numerous crew errors were the cause of the disaster. When flying at night over an area without visible ground reference points, and also without analyzing the situation on instruments, the pilots lost their orientation in space, it was not recognized in a timely manner, or it developed gradually. At the same time, the aircraft fell into an ever-increasing right bank for a long time, which soon reached its limit value. The pilots tried to correct the situation, but, being disoriented in space, only aggravated it, after which they lost control of the aircraft. This was largely due to poor communication within the crew, as well as confusion about the use of the autopilot. The management of Kenya Airways made a number of comments on the report, although they generally agreed with the opinion of the Commission.